Suicidal thoughts after losing a child. This is something that comes up for so many grieving parents that I talk to. And I have to admit that I have had those thoughts as well. There's a couple things that I want everyone to understand here about choice versus depression versus professional treatment, helping yourself. When anyone gets to the point of feeling like they want to hurt themselves in any way, including suicidal thoughts, please stop and get help, professional help. I'm Christy Bundukumar. I'm a psychiatric nurse practitioner. Unfortunately, I'm an expert in grief because I have lost more than one child. And the reality that suicidal thoughts come up is true, probably more than we talk about. And so I wanted to make a video specifically around this. I've talked about it in other videos, but I was reminded in my own 45 days of grief, and if you're following me, this is the series after my 45 days of grief of what did I learn while doing my 45 days of grief. And so if you've lost a child, I know it's hard, but part of kind of controlled grief and choosing to grieve is going back and watching these videos. I have a personal friend who's lost a child in a drunk driving accident, and they won't watch my videos. So I understand how painful and hard it can be. But we have to learn to process this pain, or it will eat us alive. And when I say eat us alive, I'm talking about it becomes so heavy that you want to kill yourself. And I know many people who have lost a child have been that low. So during my 45 days of grief, I got to a point where I was in kind of this depressive day and I was grieving and the pain was so intense. And I had a suicidal thought. Now, I've been a clinician for 20 plus years. I have used cognitive behavioral therapy. I have advocated against suicide. I even have this no suicide, suicide not an option contract. And I talk about making that choice before you ever get to this point. And this is why it's important, because I had made a choice many times, many years ago, that regardless, I would not kill myself. And so I was immediately reminded of that promise that I made to myself. And it's important that you make that promise to yourself, not to anyone else. And we have this, little contract in the description about making that decision to, no matter what, I will not commit suicide. That is between you and yourself, and loving yourself enough to make that decision. And if you can't make that decision, you definitely need to seek professional help, please. But in my 45 days of grief, I got to this point where the pain felt unbearable. And I talk about this a lot when I talk about suicide in other videos of suicidal thoughts don't have to be an action. You can just describe them as a feeling because there is no other word for that feeling. You feel like giving up. You're tired. Those don't seem to have the power or even remotely describe the pain that you're feeling. And so, suicide comes up because it's so intense. The pain is so intense that you feel like you can't do it. And that dying would be easier. So I was reminded that during this 45 days of grief, that I am no different than anyone else. We all have a point where we can't take it anymore. But we don't have to stay there. And this is what I hope you get out of this video, is that yes, validate the pain, validate that there's no other word for that pain, but don't take action in committing suicide. Grief, intense grief, especially the grief of losing a child, just seeps into every other area of our mental health. The way that we talk to ourselves, our anxiety, spiritual conflict. I talk about the Mentally Strong Method in several other videos, so please watch the whole process, because it's important to learn how to think, organize, and choose. I know this is a very controversial statement, but I'm going to say it anyway. Suicide is a choice. And yes, there's likely mental illness, grief, trauma, something else underneath. But the actual action of taking your life is a choice. And we can choose life, regardless of how painful it is. And I talk in the previous video about we can heal from losing a child, but we have to take action. We have to be willing to receive. We have to know that we're not going to fix it. It's very complicated, and I have several videos on these little nuggets of how you actually do that. But this video is about making the choice today that you're not going to kill yourself, that there is a possibility of healing, and that you're going to choose life. And it's not that easy. It's not like, oh, you choose life and now you're no longer suicidal or having those thoughts or having depressed mood or grieving the pain so intensely you can't stand it. None of those things are going to go away from making this choice. Make it anyway. For me, I remember a conversation I had with my sister a couple years ago. And we were talking about kind of my video series and what's my why? Why am I doing it? And I said, I have to have something that gives me purpose. And because if something ever happened to Maya, I would want to kill myself. But because I made those decisions, I won't, and I'm able to help others. But I know there's so many of you out there that never thought that you would lose a child. Still make that decision. We can heal. I have some people that talk to me that's lost a child and they have this enormous guilt because they have other children and they're not giving those children attention, all the way to people who that was their only child, or they've lost more than one child, or they've lost all their children and you just don't understand. I have lost both of my biological children. I understand. But me understanding doesn't help you. You have to make that choice. I can't make the choice for you. I can't say everyone will heal. But regardless of what your current life has, of what you perceive as value, right? Because this is where that suicidal thought comes in. You say, oh, well, I don't have any children, or my husband left me. There's so many divorces after losing a child because the pain is too much. And so, maybe other things in life are stacking what feels like against you. And you don't feel like you have a life. after this loss. But that also can be a choice. You can find life. You can find things that bring you joy. So it's real. It's common to have suicidal thoughts after losing a child. Commit to yourself that you will not do it, but also that you won't live in this intense pain forever, that you will grow around this pain. And you will find life, whatever that is for you. I believe if I can do it, anybody can do it. I'm not this super strong person. I was depressed way before I had a reason to be depressed. But here I am. History of depression, standing here after losing 2 children, begging you not to complete suicide. And if you think about suicide, if those thoughts come into your mind, 1, get professional help, but 2, allow it to look and feel like a thought, a word that's used because I have no other word. It does not have to be an action. I believe that you can do this. I believe that you are mentally strong.